We're here to talk about something that is difficult for a lot of people to go through, and that is grief, that is loss, and navigating some of the relationships we have as a result of that, or maybe some of the relationships we had during it. So, before we jump right into this, Katrina, do me a favor, introduce yourself, tell my audience a little bit about who you are, and of course, where they can find you.
My name is Katrina Bras. I am living in Pennsylvania right now. Um, I recently started a podcast of my own with my best friend. It is called Rewired Woman Podcast. We talk a lot about kind of like you do, conversations over coffee or tea or just catching up with friends. But my friends, specifically Maddie, um, we tend to get into deeper topics and always are linking neuroscience and psychological concepts um, to what we are interested in. So, whether that be intuition, suicide, whatever it is, it can even be, you know, how often we go to the bathroom, things like that. We'll just talk about literally anything troubling us, and we always find some way to link it to research. So, I run that podcast off of all major platforms, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. And we talk about our grief, our experiences, kind of like you said, reflecting on how our experiences affect the way we see the world and our relationships.
How did you get started speaking about this, starting the podcast, and get involved in this type of community?
I met her in college, and I think we've always been drawn to these forms of conversations, deeper conversations. Um, we were up at 3, 4 a.m. one day when she came to visit me. And she said, I've always wanted to do this, and you're the perfect person to do it with because there's no, every time we talk, it's just deep and we're getting into things and we're saying why don't we have these types of conversations with more people, and my husband will get dragged into them and anybody who's around gets dragged into them, and that we dragged everyone into it, I guess.
I remember when I first started this, it was because I was going through something from a mental health perspective, and I just wanted to understand if anyone else was going through this, right? And just see that, hey, this is my journey. Does anyone else have a similar journey to this? And I know you share that you're having these types of conversations not only with family members on your podcast, other things like that. Have you gone through your own grief journey? And if so, how was that?
I have gone through my own grief journey. I mean, I've gone through several, but I think that there's one recently that I couldn't put to bed as quickly as the others. I It was something that I, unlike other grief where it's a family member, a grandparent, or I was too young really to recognize what was happening. Um, this one was about as close to me as it could get. So my I gave birth to a stillborn child um, in March of 2024, and because I have a pregnancy announcement, and I've structured my whole life around welcoming life into it. Um, it was a different type of grief that changed me in a way that I didn't anticipate, I guess. And it was something I couldn't just run from, I guess, in the same way as other grief I had in the past.
When you were going through that, what is something that you wish you knew back then that you know now about the journey?
Well, something I actually look back on this journey. I mean, I'm still in the journey, but I look through this journey and I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be the whole time. And I knew that even in the moment. So to preface this, I am also an alcoholic. I identify as an alcoholic. Um and I was sober when this happened. And I think that that was a really big gift for me, and maybe is why the grief was different, because I was given a lot of gratitude and a spiritual relationship with like a higher power through getting sober that allowed me to process my grief head on, but also remain spiritually connected and not have like resentment or anger for the fact that it happened kind of in the moment. I mean, I'm sure it was still present, but I remained pretty hope. I just don't feel like I lost hope entirely like I had in the past when I had experienced previous grief, I guess.
And that's something I think is a little bit difficult, right? Because when someone passes our way or when we lose our identity, which is a lot of times happens with grief, we know what we're losing, but we don't know necessarily what we're becoming. Was that a struggle for you to understand, okay, I'm not this person anymore, but who the hell am I becoming now? Or who am I going to be now?
I think I was just doing that by being pregnant, by becoming sober. Like I was still doing that. So I guess maybe that's, I hadn't thought about it until you worded it like that. But I think I was still there. So it wasn't like a new place to be. That wasn't a new aspect brought on by the grief. I already was in a, I have no idea who I'm becoming kind of phase of my life. So because I had been there so long, I think I had already had time to acclimate to that aspect of this experience.
I work with a grief charity, and we have group sessions when we speak about the grief. And a lot of times, some people will say that they don't feel strong enough or courageous enough to share their story or share what they're feeling or to even name what they're feeling. Like, you know what? I feel upset today or I feel okay today. When you, like, if someone were to ask you today, how do you feel about what has happened? How different or how the same is it today than it was, let's say, a year ago, 2 years ago, or when it first started?
It's very different. Um, yeah, I would say it's pretty different. I feel some strange things. I'm sorry, I got a little distracted. It's very different. I think, yeah, I would just say it's different. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay because it's tough, right? Like if you think about the impacts it has on us as a person and the trauma, there are days where you can look at it and be like, I don't know if I'm going to pull through it. I don't know if my relationship's going to hold up. I don't know if my career is going to hold up. I don't know if my family is going to hold up. What were some of the challenges that you went through that you're proud to say that, okay, I've worked through it. I've been able to find a positive outcome to it.
Yeah. So I think the craziest thing is before this happened, I lacked a lot of identity. And when, so I guess let's just start at the beginning. I found out I was pregnant in jail. When I became incarcerated, they do a pregnancy test. They asked me, is there any way that you could be pregnant? Now, this might be TMI, but I had taken a plan B. I was with a long term partner, so I was not worried about getting pregnant, but given that I was about to go to jail, timing could not be poorer. So I I had done that, taken a plan B. They asked me, is there any way you could be pregnant? And my exact answer was I shouldn't be. But like I knew in the back of my head there was an instance in which I that was necessary. It takes a long time. It takes about an hour. I'm sitting in the waiting room and I'm in no rush to like get into a cell and start this journey of incarceration. I'm in no rush. And the guard gets a call, finds out I'm pregnant. I immediately call my husband and let him know, and I'm bawling because there is so much happening in this moment. This was my first time, hopefully only time incarcerated. It wasn't for very long. Um, and in a way, we've thought, my son's name is River. In a way, we thought like he came maybe to be there with me through this experience, through this time in my life. At the time, that's not how I felt about it. But then after, getting out of jail and then being on house arrest and all of this, there was a lot of comfort in my baby. I was creating a relationship with him at a very, I'm highly spiritual, I'm sober. Um, no one in the jail, like I probably had a much easier time in jail because I was pregnant. I would give my cookies away. Everybody called me baby mama. I was treated better. Um, it was people bonded with me over it. People consoled me. It gave me a lot in that time. And then coming out of it, it became my identity, like you said, right? Like, I don't know, maybe I lost that identity when I lost him. And what it did, what replaced it is so I was planning on being a stay at home mother and mothering him and raising him, um, schooling him likely. I mean, I wanted a home birth as well. So I was going through that process.